coming out to our showing of School to Raise Resistance in Education in Virginia. We wanted to give you a brief background of the history that we based this play off of. It's been a long and really fun semester. We've done a lot of research, and the first point we want to make is that our school about segregation actually begins with the Brown v. Board of Education decision and then progresses through the process of what was called massive resistance in Virginia. Because basically in Virginia they said, all right, fine, if black kids are coming to our schools, then nobody can go to school. And after the Brown v. Board decision is really where the conflict begins to us. And that's where our story begins as well.
And one of the really exciting and sometimes overwhelming parts of this project was, as a class, we had a lot of control in selecting what we wanted to include in this performance. And to do that, we did a lot of research in the beginning of the semester with looking at old editorials, looking through newspapers like the News Leader and the Afro-American, and as well as the Richmond Times-Dispatch, and we selected different community voices that we wanted to pull out and include in this play. In addition, we interviewed several community members who were living in the state of Virginia and the city of Richmond at the time throughout integration of the public school system to see if we could include as many perspectives as possible. And while this is by no means like an exhaustive or inclusive, entirely inclusive look at all of the voices of people who are living in the city of Richmond, we hope that you get a sense of kind of what the different community dynamics were at the time. And we thank you all for being here. We're really excited about this performance, and we look forward to having a discussion with you after. Thank you.
We wanted to say another couple brief words. I'm Browder, one of the teachers of this course.
And I'm Patricia Herrera.
And we wanted to just tell you a little bit about this project in the context of the next 5 years. Patricia and I got together. We met actually at our job interview at University of Richmond a year ago plus, and we decided we really wanted to work together on a semester-long project. And that has since developed into a 5-year project focused on the history of civil rights and education in Richmond, which I think will be a mother lode of material. We had a very exciting semester, and we have many, many people to thank who helped.
So this project would not be possible without the support of the Bonner Center of Civic Engagement at U of R, especially Terry Dolson, Kim Dean, and Ebony Smith, who have been really important in making this happen here at UR Downtown. T. Turner, our moderator, and Cricket White from Open City. We also have Lisa Miles from Common Ground as well, and Rosemary Hoonigan from Henderson Middle School, who were very helpful in also trying to make this project happen. One of the things that the students did was that we went to Henderson Middle School and gave them a little small stage reading of what you're going to see today, 2 scenes, and they were actually very vital in helping us work out how is the scene going to look like, because it has to do with young people in school, basically.
That's right. And we've got a whole list more. Let's see. Ray Bonas at VCU Library Special Collections took our students through the African American History in Richmond collection and showed us some amazing materials. Minor Wiesiger at the Library of Virginia brought out recorded speeches from the state's governor in the late 1950s, which blew our students away. Andy Newcomb, the Dean of Arts and Sciences, University of Richmond, provided invaluable support. Charles Alexander and Betty Beverly Dillon, Lewis Booker, Elizabeth Saline, Hatcher, and Spot Crenshaw were amazing interviews, and I think some of you who are in the audience tonight might recognize some material from your interviews translated onto stage, because those interviews made a very deep impact on everyone who's there to hear them. Carmen Foster, Lauren Lee, Debbie Mullen, and Reed West all helped out in many ways. So we thank you all very much, and we would like to provide an opportunity for those of you who have a connection to this history. We went through segregated schools or integrated schools in Richmond, or have something to say that you'd like to share, we have books out, notebooks, and we would love to capture your names, addresses, emails, phone numbers, and memories, so that when we restart this process next year, we will know who to come to talk to, because we see this again as a 5-year project, and there is lots of room for expansion, and we'd like you all to be part of that project.
There'll be 3 memory books. One will be placed here after the performance. One will be in the reception area to your right, and the other one will be next to the exit. So please leave your information, your contact information, so we can choose for next year.
That's right, and immediately following the performance, there'll be a panel discussion led by T. Turner. So once the actors walk off stage, panelists, please come. You'll have chairs right here ready for you, and we will get the discussion started, and I think it's going to be a very, very lively discussion. So thank you all so much for coming, and without further ado, school.
Racism.
On May 17, 1954, the Brown versus Board of Education decision was handed down from the Supreme Court, declaring that separate educational facilities were inherently unequal. However, there's got to be more to the story than that. All we ever hear about is Brown versus Board of Education. It was a landmark decision. Are we really supposed to believe that one court case can change everything? If that were so, wouldn't schools be integrated today? If you take a look around, it doesn't seem that way. So what's really going on? Let's rewind a little bit. It's 1954. The decision on Brown has just been handed down, and it's officially the law, but not everybody's willing to accept it.
Senator Byrd, there are letters and messages coming in by the dozens. Everyone wants to know what you plan to do to save the future of Virginia's public schools. And here, this message is from Senator Johnson. He needs a response immediately.
We'll draft our response right now. You have my full assurance that Virginia, state of Virginia, will do everything in its power to ensure that public schools will maintain their segregation as God intended.
And what about the Supreme Court decision, sir?
The Supreme Court decision tramples on states' rights and will not be allowed to stand. Forces of integration believe that if they can bring Virginia to its knees, they'll march the rest of the South saying hallelujah. However, I promise that Virginia will lead the fight against integration.
And the rest of the country?
I feel that if we organize to this order for massive resistance, then the rest of the country will realize that integration will not be accepted in the South.
Excellent, sir. I'll send it out right away.
Extra, extra! February 24th, 1956. Senator Byrd declares massive resistance.
Hey, you want to grab a paper?
Yeah, sure.
Did you hear about Byrd's response? Are you worried?
Worried? No, this is real change. Even the courts are behind us this time. Separate is not equal anymore. The whites are just trying to hold on to whatever they have and make one last stand.
But look here. They're talking like they're going to defy the courts.
Defy the courts? Even Byrd can't defy the courts. He's just trying to make a threat.
I hope you're right.
I really think that I am. These public schools, they were built for our children too.
And we can't let them hold on to the status quo.
We have to fight for our kids to go to good schools.
You want your kids in those schools? But what values will they learn? And what are the other students? How will they treat them?
And the teachers.
In our schools, we have community leaders teaching our children solid values. But in those white schools, No one's going to care if they succeed.
But we need to get in there. We need to prove to them our children deserve to learn right alongside their children.
I know we stand to gain. I'm just afraid we're going to lose part of our community in the process.
I don't know why they think they can come into our schools bringing their children over here.
The thought of teaching them.
Can you picture their kids in classroom with our children?
Sitting next to each other, sharing textbooks,
Drinking from the same water fountains.
playing sports.
We have so much to worry about already. Let's just
Our children do good in our schools, and they have the finest teachers.
Yeah, but they'll have fine teachers in the white schools too.
And what about the facilities?
What about indoor plumbing, heating during the winter, new textbooks? Our children deserve the best.
Do you actually think that your children need to be in a white school to succeed?
It's not just about integration anymore. It's about equal opportunity. And our kids deserve the right to be in the same schools as the white kids.
Yeah, anything else, we're selling them and ourselves short.
We're civilized.
They don't respect our
Children's needs. They don't understand anything about our
way of life. They want to change everything. They want to take
our hope away from us. They want to destroy this city, this state, and this nation. We will never stop fighting for our children.
To have a better life.
We won't stop until we have achieved the best for our children.
It's 4 years later. It's 1958, and the struggle continues when Prince Edward County closes to prevent integration.
Stop integration!
Keep our schools white!
We don't want to integrate!
No integration!
And mixed raising! Keep our schools white!
2, 4, 6, 8.
We don't want to integrate!
My parents say that if we let them into our schools, it'll be dangerous. They're just not civilized. And that's not what God intended for the races.
And segregation!
We want equality!
Equality now!
Separate's not equal!
Segregated schools!
Integrate now!
Integration! 2, 4, 6, 8.
We want to integrate!
all the white kids with money are off in their fancy private schools. But what about me? Where am I supposed to go?
Meanwhile, at the newsleader, the letter to the editors keep pouring in.
Regardless of the habits, customs, moral codes, etc. that you speak of, you'll agree that according to the good book, all men are created equal. Thus it should be now as in the beginning. Integration is simply the way back to the right and normal way of life.
There's an older and higher law than even the Supreme Court. The law that parents have the right to protect their children from harm. The white people of the South are trying to protect their children from the immorality, the disease and lack of refinement, and the ugliness that is so prevalent in the Negro race.
A Negro does my cooking and takes care of my children. And if we are so afraid that our children will be maladjusted due to school contact, then there's a problem with the way you've been raising your children.
Integration in the white community is like a polio victim learning to walk. He has to dig deep inside to find abilities that he never knew existed.
One can almost hear the long-ago rumble of gunfire at Fort Sumter in South Carolina. It's interesting to speculate as to whether or not the Supreme Court still would have ruled to integrate the public schools if the Chief Justice would have been white, which is really the only way you can understand the racial problem confronting the South today.
I cannot afford to hate. It's too costly to me. I have 5 children. I cannot allow them to come to the place of justice thinking that they let their father teach them to hate.
On school segregation, what a shame that the white race has fallen to such an extent that we no longer control our own individual likes and dislikes. Personally, I have no problem with the colored race, or any other for that matter. But if I choose to educate my children, or put them through dance classes, or any other profession without the presence of Negroes, Eskimos, or what have you, then that is my privilege.
It's now 1968, over a decade after the decision of Brown, and the Supreme Court still struggles to achieve integration.
Order!
case of Green versus New County School Board of New Kent is now in session. Chief Justice Earl Warren now presiding.
14 years ago, the Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus Board of Education that separate facilities for educating white and black children could never be equal. At the time, states were told to integrate their schools, but without a set time frame for doing so. Since then, few districts have achieved true integration. In the case of Green versus the County School Board of New Kent, it has been decided that states must submit plans to integrate schools and create greater equality in education immediately. Further foot dragging will not be tolerated.
Well, court cases can't change everything. Even after 1960, when Virginia Governor Ahmed declared an end to massive resistance, the real work behind integration needs to be done, but by the children themselves.
Now, you know if you keep walking, you're going to walk right into that girl, right?
I know, but I'm just sick of moving. This is my school too.
Look at that girl, walking as if she owns this place. Who does she think she is? Jeez, watch where you're going.
What did you say to me?
I said, watch where you're going.
I'll go wherever I want.
Oh, what?
Come on, Joanne. It's not even worth it. Don't even waste your time on it.
That girl better watch.
Sal, why do you have to be so hard-headed? You could have just moved over a little.
It's just not the point.
School board meeting, August 1971. Tensions are rising on the matters of busing.
Now let's open up the floor for discussion on busing in the city of Richmond.
Finally.
Mr. Charlesworth.
Well, see, I don't have a problem with integration. What I do have a problem with is trying to achieve it through forced busing. It comes at an incredible expense to our children. In areas where the students are culturally and economically impoverished.
Culturally impoverished?
Forced busing isn't right, you know it. Our neighborhood schools are very important, and our kids don't need to be sent all over the city.
I'd like to see you step to this side of the room and tell me my children are culturally
yes!
I'd like to respond to that comment.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Where were you when our black children were being bused long distances? Where were you then? Why is it only a problem when it's your white children who are being inconvenienced? I've watched my child be bused past our neighborhood school for years because it's a white school.
They continue being bused past those homes if it wasn't for that damn judge. He's needed U.S. Marshal protection ever since he declared busing in Richmond schools.
Yeah, shame what happened to his dog. I heard they tied it up and shot it in the head.
And you know, there are some people who say they should have shot the judge like a dog. Wasted that bullet.
Regardless of opinion, busing is going to happen.
You know what? You can say what you want, but we'll vote with our feet. Unless you want your kids to be the last white children at their schools.
This meeting has come to an end.
Oh, not these two again.
Now, I know that tired white girl doesn't think she's going to join this team. Not after what happened today.
Hi, my name's Sally McCall, and this is my friend Rebecca. We're here to try out for the cheerleading squad.
Oh, hi girls, great. We're looking to mix up the squad this year. Why don't you join our practice?
Thanks.
There is no way that frail girl can cheer.
Oh, come on, Joanne. You haven't even given her a chance.
A chance? None of them gave us a chance. Now they think they can come in and what, take over our school?
Joanne, would you mind teaching Sally and Rebecca here how to do the spirit cheer?
Yes, Miss Edmonds.
Great.
It goes like this. Watch closely, you know. It might be a little, you'll understand. Ready, team? Let's go. Got it?
I'm not sure cheerleading cheerleading's for me.
I got it. Ready, team? Let's go. See? Whoa.
That was nothing. How about this?
Easy. Anyone can do that. How about this?
Wow. Kind of good. Thanks. You gotta admit, Joanne, she's kind of good.
Okay. I guess you're all right, even if you are a white girl.
I'm more than all
Come
right.
on, Joanne. Good is good. Race didn't have anything to do with it.
Fine.
Come on, girls, keep up the good work. We need to be ready for the football game this Friday.
It's 1974, and white flight has changed the look of public schools.
Yeah, it started with Sally, and now Rebecca, going off to the county schools. And then I looked around and I realized that our whole cheerleading squad was black again. And it's cool, but Sally's parents, they didn't think she would get into a good college, you know, coming from Georgia with a black school. And Rebecca's mom, man, she thought, she was just so scared that kids would be fighting in the cafeteria and smoking dope in the bathroom, you know. And now they're all from the county schools or, you know, those private academies. Huh? Yeah, I mean, they all have their own reasons and stuff, but, you know, I'm just kind of lonely right now. I miss my friends. It's just not fair. It's just not right.
Good evening, parents, teachers, friends, family, and most importantly, the graduating class of 2003. Here in Virginia, we have a unique history. Over half a century ago, this state was divided by a force known as massive resistance. I stand here today able to address that generation that has been fortunate enough to know this term as history rather than reality. However, many others in this crowd today have a deep understanding of these implications. By having this ceremony, we offer our deepest apologies to those whose education was interrupted by the forces of segregation. This graduation is a major step towards putting the past behind us. However, much work remains ahead in the fight for equal rights. With that, I would like to call our two honorary graduates, Alan Simpson and Bertha Green.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Alan Simpson, and I am a member of what they call the lost generation. Although, I never really saw myself that way. I was only 8 years old when my mom told me that morning that I wouldn't be going to school that day, or for a long time. We didn't really know, actually. And some parents in the black community, my parents and some of their friends, tried to get us into other schools. As I recall, they put us in a school in the Mount Rock Baptist Church basement for a few months. It wasn't really the same. Then, after a few years, the elementary in my county opened back up, the Prince Edward County Elementary School. And, you know, it was great, but I was 13 years old. They put me in 3rd grade. It was humiliating. I sat in class, but me and this other girl, we were obviously older than all the little white kids. I didn't want to answer any questions because I knew that if I got it wrong, well, the kids would all laugh at me and stick at themselves. So I started to get headaches in the morning before school. I started to get stomach aches and throwing up. I was so nervous. My mom, she wanted me to get an education, but she knew that I wasn't learning anything anyway, so she pulled me out. And I had some odd jobs along the way. I ended up getting my GED and becoming kind of successful, but I really always felt like I was kept out of something because of the color of my skin. And I really never felt like I made up for it over the years. But here I am now, standing before you, and I've actually realized in the last few years what an insult this actually was to my father at the time, who had just fought in World War II a few years before the state and the government told his kids to keep out. Thank you.
My name is Bertha Green.
I was in the 2nd grade when the Prince Edward County School Board announced that they would be closing my school. My parents were really concerned that I get an education, so the following year, they sent me away to a Quaker school in Iowa. Of the more than 2,000 students who were denied an education during those 5 years, I was part of less than 5% who actually did manage to get an education. I'm now a 2nd grade teacher myself, so I know how important it is for children to get a good education, and I can't imagine how lost I would be if I hadn't. Even though I was denied the right to my 2nd grade education, I think that might be one of the reasons why I'm here now, teaching 2nd grade. In those years, I was so sad and scared, and I felt so alone, and I missed my family and my friends. Some nights, I'd cry myself to sleep, just wanting so badly to go home. The family I lived with was kind, and they had the best of intentions. But as a child of 8, all that I knew was that they weren't my real family. My parents came to visit one weekend every other month, and I looked forward to those visits for days. But after they left, I was left, all alone again, to feel those feelings, that sadness. Sometimes I had to just fight back tears, just to make it through the day. Sometimes I feel like that's what's led to these feelings of mistrust and occasional uncertainty that I feel as an adult. And I was one of the lucky ones who did get a chance to actually go to school. But still, I feel that I bear the scars. I was denied the right to go to my community school and to live at home with my family as just a young girl. I feel that as a Black child, my life and my future were not important to my community, and those feelings linger on with me to this day. Thank you.
On May 17, 1954, the Brown versus Board of Education decision was handed down from the Supreme Court declaring that separate educational facilities was inherently unequal.
57 years after the decision on Brown versus the Board of Education, when it was declared that separate is not equal, American students are still segregated in classrooms today. Think about your children. What do their classrooms look like? In the face of inequality, the real question is, what will our legacy be? Where will our children be in 50 years?
Lawyers who led the fight, Judge Robinson, Oliver Hill, a dear friend of mine. And the villains are now the people who were the heroes 50 years ago. Tom Stanley, Senator Byrd, and the others. History is going to judge them very differently and very much more harshly than Judge Murray in the United States Supreme Court and the attorneys who fought those cases in the courts.
I'm a futurist. I'm always curious about what could be out in the future. And as you start talking about the moral compass, the values piece, I don't want to blame any school system because Richmond's school system is no more but a reflection of urban school systems across America. And I don't want to blame the school system or the teachers because really school systems are a reflection of communities. If the community is broken, these children come from families that are in some way broken. I don't mean broken homes, but I mean just broken in terms of a structure and a system, and that's what they have to deal and teach with because the society is broken. I'm really intrigued with where we get into conversations that talk about how do we remend our society so that then, as we're mending that, our children that come into school systems have the moral compass that's there. And that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. When I talk about futurists, the thing that frightens me is that the media has taken over people's minds. We have a flat screen right here. You know, that would have been a blackboard, you know, for the students. And I ask myself, with the way technology is going, it can either be something that will help us or will harm us. And that all depends on how do we really intelligently harness technology, because technology is nothing but communication. Technology is nothing but a way to, if you were into the 1984 George Orwell kind of thought, programming people, how do we reprogram people in ways where that we have a moral compass in this society? Because right now China owns our debt. Right now there are other countries that are out there that may look at us quite in 50 years and say, well, you know, let's take a look and study the United States of America. And they do that in reflection, and it frightens me. Where are conversations now that can be starting to happen about what we need to harness so that 50 years from now we can look back, just like we look back before and ask, how will history judge us? And I don't really know where we're at with that right now, because I really am anxious about where our moral compass is among our society. Because that's important if we really want to see our children. Black, white, Asian, Latino, mixed, it doesn't matter. Our children survive, because they're the adults 50 years later.
This letter might summarize best. We have an old family church that talking about the past, present, and future. The family church goes back to 1838. It's down the country in an area called Southampton County. And I've been doing all these studies and interest in the names. They did a story on it recently, and you try not to leave out a name or you find out in a hurry. I found out. But the original minister rode a horse and had like 13 churches on his charge. He stayed in the area because he married a member of the church. But behind the church, there's an old baptismal pool. You know, back in the day, that's everybody was baptized back there. But my dad grew up in that area and played baseball. And I guess talking about generations, he was, and he would come to games. In this day and time, they probably wouldn't allow him there because he would talk so much trash. But my mother wouldn't sit with him at the games, but he had fun. But I put a little story together, and it got published. But the old church is still going, so if any of y'all are ever down South Hampton County, stop by. But I've written a letter heading up north and had a few thoughts on my mind. And probably about 2 months ago, it's a little waterlogged, but I got a nice letter, and it kind of summarizes what we talked about here. And it says, Dear Mark, thank you for your kind note and enclosure. Your thoughtful words join a chorus of millions of Americans who are eager to lead our nation towards a brighter tomorrow. Each day I am inspired by the encouraging messages of hope and determination I have received from people across the country. With the magnitude of challenges we face, we will only overcome them if our imagination is joined to common purpose. The future we leave to our children and grandchildren will be determined by our willingness to shoulder each other's burdens, take great risks, and move forward as one people and one nation. With your help, we will build on what we have already achieved and lay a new foundation for real and lasting progress. Sincerely, Barack Obama. So that, you never know. See, future looks bright.
In answer to your question, I believe that the answer is the parents need to be more involved, because you can't expect principals and teachers to do what can only be done at home. So parents need to come back into the schools and really support the schools. And when Carmen was talking about her elementary experience, I believe a lot of that had to do with the parental support and with the authority that the teachers had to really deal with issues. And I think we've taken a lot of the authority away from teachers and principals. Their hands are tied. And when you have kids ruling the school, you're not going to have a productive environment. So I believe the answer is that we need to give more authority to the schools and really encourage the parents to come in. But I'm like you, I haven't been in the schools for a long time, but I do keep up with the news stories, and there does need to be change. So thank you. I really appreciated this class. They were very receptive when I got to go be interviewed by them, and it's been fun working with Jenna, and I think they did a wonderful job. Wonderful job.
When I introduced myself, I did not identify myself with the University of Richmond. I have been a member of the board of the University of Richmond for 40 years. I was chairman of the board for 11 years, and I am proud of you, students, and faculty, and administrators, for bringing this program to the community. Congratulations, and thank you all. You've made the university proud.